Hail, hail, welcome back to Room 1-on-1 from the Homeboys, and we're slap bang in the middle of an international break so we can all chill, relax. Well, no, not everyone. So I am delighted to welcome back to the Homeboys, but a first-time Room 1-on-1 guest, Celtic Trust Vice Chair Jeanette Findlay. Well, Jeanette, how are you?
I'm fine. And yourself? And yourself?
Aye. Well, I think I got a lot of my grievances out last night on the main pod. A lot of swearing was done, so I'm kind of ready for the weekend. Well, Jeanette, as I say, a well-kent voice on the main show, but thanks for coming on with me and giving us a wee update and a chance to educate a couple of folk, I would say as well. Now, before we kind of go too far into trenches, can you give me just a wee status where the Celtic Trust is? Because I think I'm a member, I'm sure I am, and I'm sure a lot of people are, but we don't know what's happening now, especially with the collective coming up. Just how's the Trust looking?
Well, the Trust tends to go up and down in terms of membership, depending on what's happening with Celtic. So I think our membership is rising at the moment. I think that's one of the things you can say. And this time of the year is always busy for us, because this is always a time when we get ready for the AGM. But this year's obviously, for all the reasons that I'm sure you know, is particularly busy. And that's to be expected. What's good about this year, in a sense, is that we're now here trying to do this as part of the collective. So it's a much broader effort, to get what we need to say in front of that AGM, to use that opportunity. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, what's the point? What's the point? They'll just vote you down," and they just do not understand that AGM is so important to them, and they want to control it, and they want to have it. They want to show their wee videos and run through the elections, and have the wee question and answers that they manage as best as they can, and then a wee cup of tea in a way. That's what they want to do. And I'm quite proud of the fact that the Trust has, for years, often been able to at least force some type of conversation, at least make some point here. But the key thing about the AGM is, you'll have seen pictures here. I don't know if you've ever been, but you'll have seen pictures here if you haven't. They're all sitting up the front, every one of them. The faces that you barely could put a name to, the whole lot of them, they're there. And for that 2 hours or whatever it is, they have to listen to us. And they are very upset if their day is spoiled. So they do have to listen, they do have to hear what we've got to say. Now, it's a wee bit more than that. We can make inroads, we can actually force them to discuss certain things. And one of the things that's happened, come back, most of the Trust, we sometimes bring forward resolutions, they duly vote them down, and then lo and behold, they introduce them. So that's happened numerous occasions with numerous different things. So I don't get too downhearted that, the votes will be 90.96 against, I don't, that doesn't really bother me. That's a foregone conclusion. That's not what it's about. It's about saying, okay, this is the point at which you're accountable to shareholders. Now, I think yours is a fan organisation, but obviously we're constituted in a way that allows us to also be a shareholder body, which gives us certain rights. Then we have rights, and as long as the club is owned by a PLC, that's how we need to acquire those rights. I mean, I would hope for someday when it's not like that, but in the moment that's what it is. And it's very easy to acquire those rights, even as an individual, by acquiring shares, turning up, making your point, casting your vote. And, part of the problem is, thousands and thousands of people have those votes and don't use them. And that's a really dispiriting thing. But every year we try harder and try to get people to use their votes. And last night we did a thing that we haven't done before, which was we had a wee event in Gracie's between 7, almost like a drop-in centre, like just turn up. If the problem is that you don't know, you've got your paper copy and you don't know how to, proxy, or you don't know how to vote, or you've got your electronic copy and you don't know how to do that, or you own shares, but you don't actually know, you're not registered on the site, or Celtic's lost track of you, or, all of those kinds of things. And we were able to help. Now, there wasn't a huge crowd because it was a horrible, horrible night and it was lashing. But we get, a good few people came in and we were able to sort them out. Scott, you appear to have gone. Am I talking to myself?
Just crack on.
Crack on. It's okay. Aye, so that was great. People came, and that struck me as something that we should certainly do round about this time, and maybe much earlier in the voting period. But it also struck me that we should probably do it routinely throughout the year to say to people, when there's no such a pressure and a time constraint, do you have shares? I do, but I don't know where they are. Come and see us. Did your granny leave you shares, but you haven't actually transferred the ownership? Come and see us. So those kinds of things, so that we can start to get shareholders. And if you have your shares and you get your AGM papers and you can do all that, there's one other thing you can do. You can register on the Celtic Trust shareholder portal. Now, that doesn't mean you're joining the trust. I mean, you're very welcome to join the trust, and we'd love you to join the trust, but you don't have to join the trust. All you're doing by going on that portal is you're giving us your name, your contact details, and your permission to contact you. That's it. That's all you're doing. And then from time to time, we will send what do you call it, emails saying either, we've got these votes, we've got these resolutions at the AGM, do you want to support them? Or maybe one day it'll be, we need to call this board to account, let's call an EGM, do you want to support that and see if you can get 5% together? So that's the kind of thing. So that costs you nothing, maybe a minute of your time just to put those details in, and then it means you can be contacted. So that's a project. It's a long-running project. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But, always at these times you have to capitalise on the fact that at these times people are understanding that the ownership and governance of the club, of the company that owns the club, is really important to us. Yeah. And I know you might not think about it most of the time, but the times when you suddenly need to think about it is not the time to start organising. You need to be doing that all the time. So anyway, so people like me talk about this all the time because governance is really important. Because otherwise you get things like, minority shareholders who happen to be Neds taking over the club's media platforms to issue embarrassing rants. That shouldn't be happening. So if you want that to stop.
Everything you say there, I mean, it's great. As you say, the trust has been going for a good wee while, and we kind of, laugh's not the right word, but kind of bemoan the fact that it takes somebody flinging an inflatable shark before people think about kind of getting involved again. And then once we get a couple of wins, it all kind of dissipates, even though the problem remains. Now, talking about the trust in general, so you're a massive supporter and an integral part of the new Celtic Collective as well, we know. Why do you personally believe the collective is important at this point?
Well, I've always believed in, joining together and, and unity of strength. I'm a trade unionist, I'm an old-fashioned socialist, that's exactly how I've always, and that's how the trust has always operated. So for every single thing you can think of that the trust was involved in terms of campaigns, we've always tried to work with other groups. Yeah. We're the first one up to offer solidarity when other groups are under attack. We're the first one up to say, look, let's resolve whatever difficulties. If we can agree on this one thing, let's unite around this one thing. So that's basically the modus operandi of the trust, and has been, since we came into we're a mutual. That's what we are. We're like a credit union, in that sense. That's the financial, legal structure. It's a mutual. We mutually own the assets. So that is who we are. We would always be like that. And as individuals, that's what we believe in. So the collective is like, that's food and drink to us. That's what we believe in. So Yeah, and it's great to have that, and I can genuinely say that we've not really had this before, no, in my time, that kind of unity. And people get anxious, because when you're in a big group like that with people coming from lots of different perspectives, there is certainly room for people to get irritated or annoyed with other people, and to so on and so forth. But you have to understand that will happen. I mean, we're not all holding horns and singing Kumbaya. We just, some of us might not even like each other, and that's okay. It really is okay. But you just have to put the collective first. You just have to say, no, what we're doing here is what's important. And I can follow it with you, and I can tell you that I think what you're saying is rubbish and it will only work, and I can say this and I can say all of that, and I can doubt your motives, and I can think you're this, that or the other. But see, at the end of the day, we need to remain united in the pursuit of what we set out to do. And if that can become further down the road, an ongoing, existing, constituted body, that's a massive step forward for the Celtic support, a massive step forward. And then it's no, they're this, I don't like them, but I like them, and I don't like them, but I like them. You know what I mean? We can start to try and move away. You'll never get that there, but we can start to try and move away from that sort of stuff.
So I've got two questions right away. I've got one kind of cheeky one here, right? So Jeanette Findlay of the Celtic Trust, are you looking to go on the Celtic board?
No.
No, right, that's that sorted. Good. I can tell people that.
No, and I never have been.
Exactly.
In fact, what you can tell them is, I would rather have my bum scrubbed with a wire brush.
Well, there you go. That's the clip we're going to put out, right? Just, I don't know if you... But, so, I'm just going to touch on the collective before we jump back onto the AGM stuff, and what we kind of hope for it. Again, a collective thing, and I'm allowing you to kind of use your expression here. What do you hope for, however realistic it is, to come out at the end, not even the end of the Celtic Trust, the Celtic Collective, Celtic Fans Collective? What's your personal aims? What's your hopes, short term, long term?
Well, I think the initial aims are known, aren't they? There's first of all.
I'm more you personally, right?
Yeah.
We've got collective aims, right? And we're all fighting for them. But you personally, what's your kind of?
Well, there has to be change and complete. So what's my long term? What's my top of the line to Celtic to be owned and controlled by the fans? Celtic to be owned and controlled by the fans. And the Celtic Trust was set up and took 2 years to constitute with a constitution that could be the vehicle for doing that. Leave that to one side, because we're not anywhere near there yet.
Right, we're never there.
Right, so leave that there. But that if you ask me what I want Celtic to be owned and controlled by the fans. I don't want it to be a PLC. In the meantime,
and whilst people might say it can or can't work, it's a noble thing to believe in my opinion. So fair dues, right? It's a good.
Yeah, I don't think of myself. I think of myself as quite a pragmatic and realistic person.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think, this is a football club, right? Yeah. Is it beyond the realms of possibility that in a very small country in Northern Europe, a group of people could come together and own their football club? That doesn't sound to me like fantasy land, right? It really doesn't. Take yourself out of, where we are sitting and look at that and think, oh my God, that could never happen. No, I mean, that's not, it's not an unrealistic thing. It's no like a way up there that you could never imagine it. It's no like it. So I think that's possible. What's difficult to see for where we are, absolutely. Yeah. In terms of that coming about, given the ownership structure, given all of that, it's quite difficult to see how that could happen quickly. But huge things in history turn like that. They just turn. So I don't rule out that might happen in my lifetime. But I could live with the fact that it might happen in my son's lifetime or my grandson's lifetime. I could live with that. So that's what I want. Forget that. it's not happening right, next week or the week after, I don't think. So let's just say that that's no that. So what we could reasonably look for is for our club to be run properly, to be the gold standard of corporate governance. Now this is business language. This is not the language of a revolutionary. This is just business language. We wanted to have the gold standard of corporate governance. That would involve having regular, you'd have a stable board, but there would be regular. And by the way, you're talking about every 69 years. You're not talking about, every week. You're talking about 69 years. You would have people, a changeover. You would have talent. You would have genuinely independent non-executive directors. So what independent means is they're completely independent of both the executive, so that's like the paid officials, and in this case, the biggest shareholder. So you would have and what independent would mean is Dermot Desmond would say, "Oh, I want to put a statement out on the thing," and they go, "No, Dermot, you're not. No, you're not doing that. We don't think that's good for the club. We don't want you to do that." Now, do you think that happened? Because I don't think that happened. I don't think they would even have been asked. So that's a really minimal thing to want, and to want people who are sitting around that table. I'm assuming there is a table. I don't know whether they ever even turn up. I don't know whether they even go to meetings. I don't know what they do. But you assume somehow in your head that there'll be meetings and they'll all sit around the table and there'll be an agenda and the chairman will say, "Right, we're going to talk about this and whatever, and there's a proposal to do X, Y, or Z," and people will put their hand up and say, "I really don't think this should happen. I don't think this is good. I think we should actually be looking to do X, no Y. I think we should be." I do not think for 1 second that is what happens. No, I just don't believe it. I think they probably potentially share, I don't know, useful business experience or contacts or whatever today, or who shall we recruit to do this? Well, actually, no, I don't even think that, right? I don't even think that. So, okay, we've got a senior post we need to fill. What will we do? All right, do we have somebody that used to work for us, or do we have somebody that is, related to somebody that used to work for us? Is there somebody who used to work for us, or who's related to somebody who used to work for us, who knows somebody? Do we have somebody like that? Right. Now, you wouldn't run a corner shop like that. You wouldn't run a modern, successful business like that. You would have proper recruiting practices. You would have headhunters going out. You would have, who knows? Now, I'm sitting there the night and I can see they're now talking about, I've got a dog called Nancy, by the way. About Nancy. I'm not sure whether this guy would be any better than my Nancy, but I don't know. But anyway, because I've no idea about him. But I don't need to know because I'm the customer. I'm paying.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't need to know that. I would like to be confident that they do, but I'm not. So here's a realistic thing, that we have a competent board with modern ideas about football and business who understand, even if they want to think us as customers, treating us like customers would be a step up. At this point in time, it would be an absolute step up. So I would like a board like that. I would like a board who could challenge each other, who can sort of, do all that. I would like to see evidence that when they say, here is our vision, here is where we want to be, that they would tell us how they're going to get there. And they would say, well, in 5 years, we want to be X, and in 10 years, we want to be whatever it is they want to say. I'm not even that bothered. Those years might seem too long, but I don't even really care about that. If they say, yeah, in 2 years' time, we'll do this, and in 5 years' time, we'll do that. And then when we get to 2 years' time, we go, right, okay, we said we were going to get to there. Maybe we're not there yet, but here's the reasons why we're not there. And we go, okay, that's fair enough. Well, that happened. So, if, COVID came, right, okay, that's what happened. So we had to do something different, or, whatever else it might be.
Yeah.
And you said to her, and then you look at their, there's such secrecy around the remuneration, committee, so what's the basis on which you're getting paid? Is it because you're reaching these targets? And who's assessing whether you're... And what it seems to me, and if somebody wants to come out and contradict me, if anybody, I'd love to, I'm sure you would invite them on here. Scott, if any of the board wanted to come and tell us, have a chat, tell us that actually we're talking rubbish and that all these things do happen, and that here's examples of where we've challenged this, and here's examples of where, we have this vision and we're going to do this, and I'm not talking about post-it notes on the chief executive's back his laptop or whatever it is he's doing, I don't know. So that doesn't seem an awful lot to want to move forward a bit. That just seems absolutely minimal. Where would that lead us? So we would want improvements, so if you think about things, non-football things, you'd want improvements in the stadium. I mean, I know I've said this hundreds of times before, but no hot water in the women's toilets. There's no
hot water in the men's toilets in the whole fucking North Stand.
These are dirty articles anyway, but everybody knows men are dirty.
You've probably heard this story. So it was a fella I worked with, a guy called Tam Wilson. He worked for Miller Construction, or he was working for them. And he walked round with Fergus when they were building that stand, and Fergus was saying, we need the hot water and stuff. And he says to him, football fans don't wash their hands. And McCann's like, what? And he says, they don't wash their hands.
No, just the men.
That's why they didn't put hot water in. And you think about it, right? And that, however true that story might be, but see, after COVID, for us to get back into that stadium and there not to be hot water, but they're telling us to wash our fucking hands, you're saying, using a shower of rats, man. You don't care.
So the women's tiles and the main stand, Scott, the main stand. Toilet hasn't, and it's never had it. They were never put in.
No,
that's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It's an embarrassment. It's shameful. And every time you've mentioned it, it's almost like, and it's like almost like it's a laugh. It's not funny. So that's a tiny thing. I try not to use the toilets. I try not to get anywhere near them. So then, whatever.
Jeanette, I'm going to jump on one thing, right? And it's frustrating me. It's frustrating me alongside the Not Another Penny campaign that we're pushing, is the fact that, see the amount of people I know who have worked for Celtic. They say that Celtic is one of the worst employers. They lean on your love of the club. They don't treat people right. Anybody I know that's worked in the Celtic shop has got out of there as quick as they possibly could. Now, this is our club, and our club's a shitty employer. I find that embarrassing. And people are bringing up non-fucking hingy contracts and all that, and I'm going, that's shame on them. That's nothing to do with us. That's shame on Celtic. So sorry, I just wanted to get that.
No, and I totally agree, which is why the Trust campaigned for years to get them to sign up to the living wage campaign. Now, they did end up paying the living wage, and nobody has told me any different, but I'm assuming they still do, and they upgrade every year. But they would not sign up to the Living Wage Foundation because they didn't want to be tied, first of all, to upgrade. They have upgraded, as far as I'm aware, and somebody, if that's now changed, but it did for years after it, they were upgrading every time. But it does also mean a couple of other things. So things like those really insecure contracts and the kinds of things they're doing, they're just abusive. So they didn't want to do them. So that's why them. And they do all this subcontracting and everything. No, listen, it's an embarrassment in some senses. But I don't take responsibility for the behaviour of people who have really nothing to do with me other than they have a privileged position or something that matters to me. So I don't take responsibility for the behaviour of the British government in relation to Gaza. I mean, I'm outraged about it, and I will campaign against them, and I will go out in demonstrations about them, and I will tell them what they are. But I don't personally feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't have, and I won't vote for anybody who did that. And I'll exercise whatever power I have, either by demonstrations and whatever, or by my voting patterns, to say, no, you're not speaking in my name. So I don't take responsibility for that in a sense, but it is shameful. It's an embarrassment for them. And I can tell you many stories of people who have approached me who have been bullied inside that organisation, who've been mistreated, who've been worse than that. In fact, I'm not even going to start getting into some of the things that I know directly from people who have come to me and said, look, this is what's happening. and it is absolutely terrible. Never been unionised, never the union inside the place, disgusting. So all of that is just completely a million miles away from what many of us, the ethos behind many of us, and it really does. It does actually physically disgust me to hear them talking about, you know, our ethos and our foundations and charities and no, that's not to say the Celtic Foundation takes in loads of money, our money and Celtic supporters' money, and does some fantastic projects, no doubt about that, right? That happens. But even, I don't think that's enough. So I don't think that's enough for them to trade on a set of moral values and social values which they don't actually practice.
Yeah.
I think
Thinking,
shameful. So coming back what change do I want? I want a board that actually does really recognise who we are and what matters to us. And here's the really funny thing about this, sort of ironic thing almost. See, if they did, I think that would be financially beneficial to them. I think people would really, using the phrase, buy into that. I think if they did run it and they did show that they understood what Celtic as, the national side and immigrant people, what it means to people, they could be financially very successful on the back of that if they actually operate. I personally don't buy into it, even before this boycott. I really, unless it's a present for somebody who I know would really, do you know what I mean? Like it's a special thing or something. I don't buy anything off them.
Right.
I rarely buy anything off their kiosks. I just don't buy anything. I don't give them anything. I haven't done for a long time. I don't buy their tickets and I don't buy their, So I think it's a mistake in every possible way not to have directors who genuinely understand what Celtic means.
Yeah.
So if we could get that, that'd be nice. That would be
aye. Right. Okay. So now I'm going to do a wee bit of cross publication with some cross. Anyway, whatever it means. So you were on with Paul John Dykes, I think it came out on Monday. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. I think it came out. Is that right? Tuesday, Monday. Monday. Anyway,
I think I did it on Monday and it came out on Wednesday night. I think.
Right. So it was on Wednesday. Okay. So and I wanted almost to be just a follow up, a supplement. Do you know what I mean? Just kind of give you an update on the drop in, see how we're kind of looking now. Because I would recommend anybody who's downloaded this or listens, go back and listen to that as well. Because the Celtic State of Mind have been great over the past. Well, they're always great, so but they've been really good recently. So the AGM is a week on Friday, 21st.
Yeah.
This talk about kind of how is it too late for say I've got shares, I find shares as you say, I've kind of dug in. Oh, there's these shares. Is it too late for me to kind of register and go?
No,
to this?
no,
so I can still.
Right. No, so let's say you have shares, and your email came in for Celtic and it's in your spam box or it's in whatever and you find it. Absolutely, just go on and proxy your votes and turn up at the AGM if you can, or proxy them to us.
Fantastic.
Just to explain to people, see, even if you're going, fill in the voting form and the proxy anyway. You can still tick the box to say you're turning up, because generally there isn't a poll, unless we call for it. So generally what happens is there's a show of hands in the room. If that goes against the vote, so when the chair announces the motion and says, right, okay, votes in favour and votes against, these are the ones that have been proxied in advance.
Right, okay.
And then they'll take a show of hands in the room. If the show of hands in the room is self-evidently no in line with what was proxied, then they actually have to have a poll, like you physically go and put it in the ballot box.
Right, okay.
So that's why, even if you're coming, vote on your proxy, so fill in your proxy. So if that's your situation, that's the easiest thing in the world.
Right.
If you have shares, but you've become disconnected for Celtic in the sense that they don't write to you anymore, probably because you've moved and you never told them, And that could have been going on for a very long time. But you know that you had shares, and you may not even have the share certificate. You don't have to. You phone up Computershare UK, and you will find all the information on our site as well and on our social media. But you phone up Computershare UK, who are Celtic PLC's registrars, and you say, I own, and it has to be ordinary shares because those are the voting shares, not the preference shares, right? So I own shares. But if you don't know, just phone up and ask. I own shares in Celtic. My name is whatever, and I lived at this address at the time when I bought the shares, or I lived in one of these two addresses, if you can't remember exactly, or whatever. And then once they've identified you in the shareholder register, they will then send you, and you say, here's my new address. They'll send you what's called a shareholder registration number. Once you have your shareholder registration number, your SRN, you can go into Computershare and just register an online account. And ever after then, all you have to do, if you want to change your address or you want to check your shareholding, you just log on and do that. So that's you done for good. You get your paperwork, you get your email paperwork, every AGM sent out to you. You click on a link, it takes you to where you can, or you go into, it tells you all you have to do, explains it all in the email. So that's fine.
Right.
And that's the kind of people. Even the people, I think the people who have been left shares by their granny, but never actually, the ownership was never formally moved over, might be a bit too late for them to get that sorted. But get it sorted anyway, because then you have them next year. So it might be a bit late. I don't know how long it takes to get those transferred over, but there's paperwork on Computershare which says for deceased members, and it tells you what you need to do if somebody has died. And who it is that's getting the, and you know who it is, the family knows who's getting the shares or whatever, and then you can go and basically, unless it's like a big estate of a certain value, you're just basically issuing a statement. I can't remember the word escapes me there, to say, yeah, these shares are to go into the name of X. The shares move over, and then you go through all that process. So yes, the very simple answer to your question is, it is by no means too late. So the last time that you can vote is just before 10:30 on the Thursday, so 24 hours before. But if you've got it in paper, then obviously you need to get time to post that, so you probably want to be posting that by I would say Tuesday. But obviously, if you've not done it, post it on Wednesday and take your chances. You know what I mean? But Monday or Tuesday, would be in good time to get those posted away. But if you suddenly find them on Wednesday, well, take your chances and post them anyway.
Right. Okay. So I've done that. Right. I've done that, and I've got myself ready. I've sent it away and stuff. And I'm going to this AGM on Friday. This is the first one I've ever been, right? I'm going to, I'm ready to rock and roll, and I'm going with a collective in mind. What's my procedure? What time am I turning up? What am I looking for? What am I looking to do, in your opinion?
Okay, so you're coming into Celtic Parks and the Kerrydale Suite. I'm assuming, so the meeting starts at 10:30. I can't say exactly when the doors open because I'm a little bit of a Johnny-come-lately. I tend to be a just-in-time sort of a person. Sometimes no even just-in-time, but anyway. So I couldn't say
late, is it?
Yeah, it's because I'm very busy. Look, I would say probably best maybe get there for about 9:30. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people hanging about outside. In fact, I can guarantee you there will be. And that gives you some people to go in with. When you get inside and go inside, where you've all been in the Kerrydale Suite and you walk on, there's tables set up where the registrars are there, and you basically say, I'm Scott McCorry, and they'll go, right, okay, what's your address? And they'll just, it's like when you're voting, they put a wee line through with a ruler and put a line through your name, and that's you. There's your voting papers, and you go into the room, and the room will be laid out theatre style, so with a central aisle, and then in blocks, maybe 4 on each side, maybe 3. I think probably 3. I can't remember. Anyway, so laid out in blocks, and then along the inside of these there'll be mics, which are set out. I'm doing them like an air hostess. It's like here and here and there. Right, okay. So they're like that. And then what will happen is, let me just say what will normally happen is that the chair will open the meeting. Usually they'll say, "Oh, we've got these lovely videos where you can hear people." I'm wondering whether on this occasion they'll say, "Everything's fine. We've got a new manager for the."
I suspect that may be the case. Yeah.
And they'll expect us to go, "Oh, he should have said everything's fine then," Right? Okay, so
see you later.
They'll do something like that. So they'll do whatever they're going to do. They'll announce these videos, and we're all supposed to sit and watch these videos and whatever. Then the formal part of the business is the motions. So the motions are set out in the agenda, and so that's about their annual report. It's about their accounts. It's about re-electing the non-executive directors that need to be re-elected, which is
that's all in this case again.
Well, all of them. I'm not quite sure. See, there's only one now who is at less than 9 years, and that's Brian Rose. And I think because he's over the 3 years, he has to be re-elected every. But I could be wrong. So if it's all but one, or else it's all of them. I should get the paper sitting next to me. I could look. But it doesn't really matter. So they'll go through the elections of them, and then there's some. Basically, so can they appoint the auditors? You can appoint the auditors. You should at least be able to manage to do that. Can we decide how much to pay the auditors? Yeah, I think we can probably trust you to do that. Well, who knows? And then there's, can we allocate shares? Now, there's a thing it's called, so it's about the shareholders giving the company permission to allocate more shares up to a very limited amount, and that's to cover. So many years ago, the Celtic Trust argued for a dividend reinvestment scheme, which says, don't give us your £18 a year or whatever it is you give us, give me our shares. And they defeated that at an AGM and then introduced it because that's what they do. Anyway, so if you've been part of that, then all these years you'll have been getting.
I'm seeing a theme here.
All these years you'll get your 18. So they need to have shares to allocate for that purpose.
Right. Okay.
And then there's another resolution which is preemption rights. So I think normally, I'm speaking about this as though I'm a financial buzzkind. I'm not right, but anyway. So normally when a company issues shares, it has to go to the people who already hold shares and say, do you want to buy the proportionate increase in shares so that your shareholding isn't diluted percentage? Okay. Right. And that resolution, which I think is resolution 15, is just saying, can we just dispense with doing that so that we can do these dividend reinvestment scheme or share options for certain employees, and we don't have to go about saying, right, do you want to buy another 13 shares and so on. Okay, so that's those two. And then the final two are the ones that were requisitioned by shareholders, us.
Yes. Yeah.
And one says, whatever board we have, could you please have a strategic plan which has, short, medium and long-term objectives, a set of strategies to reach, though, because a strategic plan without a strategy to get there is just a wish list, isn't it? It's just saying, this is what I would like. So these have strategies for getting there. These are kind of points where we can, check whether we're on track to get where we need to be by the time that we've said we're going to get there. Could you communicate that to people in an appropriate way? And can remuneration be based on whether you achieve those targets? So that's that resolution saying that's what a board should do, which I think's very reasonable. We're all reasonable people, Scott. We're reasonable people. And then the other one says, we don't have any confidence in you. Could you just basically get the fuck
go away?
Could you just go away? Because we don't have any confidence in you. You shouldn't be here. You're no independent. Walk away. There's a song, was it the 1960s song, went walk away. There's a something like that. Something like that. I might go up and sing it.
There's a song for the 90s, walk away.
No, I'm not talking about the 90s one. I'm talking about a really old one that my mummies and daddies used
Really,
to sing
really
at
old one.
parties.
Not
I'm
just
talking
an
about-
old one.
Oh no, old. I'm talking about Mark Monroe or something here.
Right.
Right. Okay. So you're forgetting what age I am, Scott. So anyway, that's what they are. So there'll be those, and then when those, some of them go through without much in the way of chat in a normal year. Here's what will happen this year, maybe something different. The trust ones or the shareholder requisition ones, there's usually always a kind of a merrier debate and merrier thing around that. As I've said, it actually makes it worth going, really.
Can I interrupt you 2 seconds, please?
Yeah.
See over the years, I can imagine the go away one gets stronger every year, but has there been much change in the proposals or the kind of things that you've been putting as a Celtic Trust? Because I believe that you've been every year you're sticking them in.
Yeah, I mean, the last few years I haven't been every year, but I have been sometimes for work. I couldn't get there. It's a Friday morning, so sometimes I couldn't get it. So I've not been to every single one. I've been to a lot. No, they're different every year. So some of them, well, as I said, there was dividend reinvestment, living wage. We wanted them to set up to do a review of services for disabled supporters. So there's loads of different themed ones. They're not all using absolutely crap on the go. Although
I like that one. That's my favourite, I've got to say.
That theme has been building up. So, I mean, a few years ago, we said, the major shareholders get too much control. What we need is, you heard me talking about that in a meeting not that long ago, the major shareholder has too much control, and there should be a minute of agreement to protect small shareholders' rights. And really, when I say that, I mean fans' rights. Because you're dominating when you shouldn't be dominating because you don't have a majority shareholding. Those kinds of things. And we've raised the issue about the length of time the Neds have been in and how they're no independent. We've certainly raised that before. So the various things happen. Anyway, when all of that is finished, and when all the shouting and bawling is finished about that, then they go, right, okay, it might be 30 minutes, it might be 45 minutes question and answer, and people can just go to the mics and ask questions. And that, I think, has changed also over the years. I mean, often there's people, it's just the moment. It's the moment in the limelight, they get up because they think they've got a really funny thing to say, or they've got and that's either because they want to say a really funny thing about how great, I don't know, the manager is, or how great. And some people want to go up and give, because the manager's often sitting there. I don't know why. It's an irrelevance, really. They shouldn't be there. They don't have a role there. But anyway, often they'll sort of try and tell the manager what they should have been doing on some occasions. Occasionally that will happen. No, I mean, it does happen. And then there'll be people who want to talk about puddles in the car park, and there'll be people who want to talk about the standard of the catering, which is not an unreasonable thing to want, but no, maybe not an AGM, but so the standard of the catering's bad. We all know that. But that's okay because we're not buying any, so that's fine. So that, and then that's that, and then it closes, and you can stand about and have a cup of tea and chat to people if you so wish. So that's.
Did they hang about it?
No, they show. No, I mean they might. You might.
You're going to clap them out as well. Thanks, lads.
Well, I don't, but anyway. But I would happily clap them if they were leaving for the last time.
If they were coming back?
I would personally organise a guard of honour if they agreed to just go. But anyway, so don't let the door hit your arse on the way out. But anyway, look, that's what, if you're coming for the first time, that's what it'll look like. But I wouldn't worry this year because you'll not be alone. You'll turn up, there'll be people you won't feel out of place because there'll be lots of us there. There have been years when, the trust is pretty much the sort of irritant, the gnat bite on an elephant's arse sort of thing for, well, there's a few in the room and we're doing about it. Although, what I would say is, I've never actually known any of the trust resolutions not to win in the room.
Right.
We do win it. Well, they do. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do one in the room. I've never really noticed. Somebody's going to jump up and contradict me. You know what I mean? Some smart arse is going to come and say, "Well, I was there in 2011 and this happened." But whatever. In general, it isn't the case. We usually carry the room, I would say, pretty consistently.
He's come for the betterment of the club, so you know what I mean, and the betterment of the people.
I think so. I mean, I'm sure there's people who don't like us for whatever reason, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody could say we're doing it for any reason. In fact, I was surprised you said to me that thing about, do I want to be on the board? Because that used to be the thing. I mean, 20 years ago, people, they just want to be on the board. And you're like, oh my God, I can't think anything worse.
Exactly. No. I mean, like I say, since I've been in the collective, I've heard it a couple of times. And do you know that way you kind of just drop your head on the table and go, oh, geez, peace. No, I mean, it's more than that, you clown.
There is some things that are said that, especially social media and stuff like that, there are some expressions or phrases or points of view that are repeated so often that people who have no clue about what they're talking about will just repeat them because they've heard them and just be absolutely convinced that they're true because they've heard it being repeated by loads of other stupid people like them. So, I mean, that's really bad for that because they'll say, I mean, there's sort of certain stories that they just repeat. Like, one of them is, it was the Celtic fans that wanted the Offensive Behaviour Act. That's one of them. Like, they'll just repeat that. I've heard it thousands of times, and nothing will convince those people that just didn't happen. And in fact, not only did it not happen, but it's on public record that we were the first to oppose it and say no. And then about me, it'll be like, oh, you go to the polls when people say nasty things about you. And I was thinking, God, the police wouldn't then nails to death if I was going to them every time somebody said nasty things about me. But people, and right up to recently, when I posted about it, aye, and you go to the polls when people, and I don't answer that obviously because why would I? But so coming back to that thing, people, there are just things. I think this is a broader, I don't know, psychological point. There are just things that are just repeated. And people will just say, well, it must be true. I've heard it so many times. And then they repeat it. You know. They never think, I don't know if that's true. I've just said this and I don't know if it's true.
I've noticed it as an avid, like, so I'm sitting working, I'll have the podcast on while I'm working away. And it's something I've noticed. I don't know if it's a new thing, if it's always happened. I've just never noticed that somebody will say an opinion and they'll repeat that opinion and they won't be challenged on that opinion, and then that opinion becomes the fact. And they will say that because nobody's ever challenged them, and they'll just keep saying it, and as you say, somebody else will say it, and there it is. It's opened up.
And then it becomes the truth.
It becomes the truth.
What we call in academia a stylised fact. It's like, you just, well, that's not quite true, because a stylised fact is probably close to a fact, but it's, you express it in a simple way. But it can be very, I think it can be very kind of depressing and undermining, which brings me back to the collective, because I think a lot of people who are operating in the collective, it's not that they're inexperienced, because they most certainly know they're experienced in all sorts of things, but maybe they're having to do different things from what they used to do, and then they're coming up against opposition or sniping for the sidelines, and they find it very undermining. It worries them.
Yeah.
You just have to find it, and you just ignore that stuff. And nobody can ever do it completely. I mean, I'm saying it, and I couldn't take my own advice, because there's times when it affects me as well. But you have to just say, no, listen, I can't be distracted by that. I've got to keep my focus on what it is that we're doing here, and I cannot be distracted.
I would admit to that.
For the sidelines.
Yeah, I would admit to that myself. I do kind of get down by the people that you're fighting for basically dismissing you because you're fighting for something. That frustrates me, and certainly yourselves and the Ultra Boys and all the guys like Paul, guys who've been fighting for the fans for so long, for their own fans to kind of turn on them, it depresses a living daylights out of me. You know what I mean?
Aye.
But
Yeah,
as you say,
it's no nice. No, it's not nice. But you've got to just, if you're not, if you're not up for that, then you would be as well just saying this is not for me, and it isn't for everybody. Like campaigning, some people will be able to find it. Some people won't ever campaign for anything. Some people will find it in themselves to say, right, I want to do this one particular thing, and once I've done that, that's me, and that's okay. There are very, very, very few people who will continue to campaign in roughly the same area for the same types of things for decades, understanding that they're not going to get there next week or next month. There are very few people willing to do that. But the ones that are willing to do it are able to do it only by no listening to that chat. Don't listen to it. If you hear it, try not to respond to it. Try not to, and I'm not saying you don't listen to reasonable criticism. I'm not talking about that. If somebody wants to criticise you in good faith, they'll first of all do it openly. They'll do it in their own name, and they'll do it, and then you can have that debate. And you might never agree, but you have the debate, and then that's it finished.
Brilliant.
But you have to get to.
Yeah, like I say for myself, I did get kind of down about it, but I think, and you said it right at the beginning, I think the strength of the collective is a major, major positive, and it is something to build on. And I sit at meetings with you guys, and I keep saying to Gemo, I'm a soldier. You know what I mean? I'm point me in the direction, and I'll go for it. But it's as you say, it's no idiots sitting in a room. It's people with Celtic in their hearts, and they're giving everything for it. And I think it's as positive. I'm a regular on the Huddleboard, and the same questions come at you. And I've started using it. I met Jim Orr recently, and I was saying to Jim, because obviously Celts for Change was born out of Save Yourselves. And Save Yourselves didn't have a white knight. They didn't have Fergus McCann sitting there. And I was saying to him, what was it like for you guys going at them when all you had was, we want change? You know what I mean? And I'm saying, how come they guys are lauded? I think people look back at 94 a wee bit misty-eyed and kind of don't realise how crap they got it as well. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know.
Oh, no, that's absolutely, because, I mean, it divided the main associations. It split. It caused all sorts of bother among the Celtic Sports Association. I know that for a fact. So, no, nothing that you're ever going to really campaign for and fight for isn't going to come up with opposition, isn't going to come up with division. And it's how you deal with that division. It's how you, and that's, I think, the key here. It's not that you won't have division, and it's not that there's something that you can do where everybody will always agree. That's not ever going to happen. So you have to accept that it will be flawed. There'll be a bit of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. There will be, all that. But just keep focused on the prize, keep focused on making this better, because your only other alternative is, in that phrase, to walk away, and we're not doing that, are we?
I don't have
where else can we go? Where else can we go? We're Celtic supporters. That's what we do. I don't know what people do who don't go to the football. I have no idea what they do. Right. And I'm hoping not to find out. So I don't know. I mean, everybody at some point in their life, when you give birth and stuff like that, you can't always go to the football. Or when you in my case, I've got a grandson, and that there's times when you've got to put your family first, and you've got to do stuff like that. So everybody, has sometimes short gaps or intermittent bits where they can't get to the football. But by and large, we are people who go to the football. And I don't know what you do if you don't. So you can't walk away from these fights, because when you come back, it's still there. It's not, you can't choose, right, well, I'm just not going to support Celtic anymore. That's the way they're going to behave. You're not going to do that. So stay united and try your very best not to listen to the snipers for the sidelines, because they won't achieve anything other than to continue to snipe.
Exactly. Well, right. So we're on a home state here, and I'm just going to finish it off with. Do you think? So we've touched on it already. So it's looking likely that your Doug is getting the job for Celtic. That's Nancy, right? And should they present him a day, and do you think they'll stick him at a seat at the AGM? And then my next question is, do you think that Dick Dastardly himself might be sitting beside him?
Well, you're asking me just to. I mean, I think if they did sign him between now and Friday, they will.
They will. They definitely will.
They will be desperate. He'll be like a human shield. That's what he'll be. He'll be a human shield. They'll stick him
again, like for me, morally, that I think that would be a horrible thing to do.
Yeah,
because they know. But that for me, I would be like, no chance you're getting in. We'll pony it up, but this is the people we're talking about.
Yeah. No, they shouldn't do that, but they would. They absolutely would.
Right.
Yeah. And if the guy's there, that's fine. That's fine. We'll talk to you later. We've got some other business to do. You know what I mean? It's not.
We'll speak to you. We'll get a cup of tea later.
Listen, just to be clear, there will be people in that room who that's all they'll want to think about, because you have to accept that there are people who it's just about Celtic. Just being inside that hall on that day every year is enough for them. Just being able to float about near proximity to, the manager and the directors, it's just, that's all it is for them. And like, I'm not deriding people. If that's what they are, that's what they are. But that's no what I'm about. It's not what you're about. It's not what the collective's about. So nobody's going to want to make the guy uncomfortable, or if he's been appointed, he's been appointed. What can you do? That's that. Whatever you think of that. But that cannot be used. That cannot be used as a way to say we're not going to say the things that we need to say to this board on Friday. So that's the first thing.
Good.
Dermot Desmond be there. That's an interesting one. It's another study. I should have studied psychology rather than economics. Because it is really, it's about saying this guy, he's such a sort of he's a narcissist, isn't he? He's just like, it's all about him. And I wonder whether he would be so knowing what's being said, which he undoubtedly will, about what we think about him and how that's becoming much more vocalised. People are saying that now. Whether he would say, well, I'm just going to turn up, I'm just going to put up with it. But on the other hand, is he going to actually put himself there? It's like putting up, what's the things you throw wet sponges at, like, or you throw custard packs or something. And he would be putting himself up to so-called the flag. And do you know, I'm not sure he would. In fact, I'm not even sure. What would be worse if he put his poor boy up?
Imagine.
I'm sure he's not a poor boy, but you know what I mean.
Well, I know what you mean.
Say to his boy, you go. Like, I don't know. I've no idea. He doesn't go. I think it's 2006 since he's been.
Wow.
So I can't see it. But then he doesn't normally go to Falkirk games either.
No, exactly. Well, that
midweek.
I kind of laid my question.
So what happens there? So the answer is I don't know. It'd be interesting if he did. It doesn't matter in the end, in a sense, whether he does or he doesn't. Exactly. This is no about. It's not even about targeting individuals. It's about people who are in that role. So, we want, and I want Michael Nicholson to leave. I want Peter Lawwell to leave. I want. I've actually forgotten his other name. I've forgotten the finance director's name.
Chris Mackay.
Oh, Chris Mackay. So I would right out of my head there. So we want them to leave. Do I hate them? No, of course I don't. Could I say hello, how you doing? And of course I could, and I have done, because I've been in meetings with them for years. So I do actually have Chris Mackay less so, but Michael Nicholson and Peter Lawwell, years and years and years. I've been in, no in their, I don't mean I socialise with them, because obviously I don't, but I've been in meetings we're human beings. We interact and we go, how you doing? And, your family and blah, 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 and that kind of thing. You can do all of that. So this is not about individuals. Mm-hmm. This is about saying, this post that you're in requires change. It needs somebody else because you're currently not doing this job right. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. And I would have no difficulty. I wouldn't feel awkward or embarrassed or anything, if I was to come across, I don't know, Peter Lowell walking his dog up my street or something. I mean, he doesn't live anywhere near me, so I don't even know if he's got it. But you know what I mean? If I was just to happen to bump into him somewhere, I wouldn't feel it's awkward because I've been openly criticising and I wouldn't feel awkward at all. And I've no doubt he wouldn't either. Because this is not about individuals. It's not even about that. And you've heard what I've had to say about Dermot Desmond. He's not my favourite person. But it's not even about him. It's about the role. It's about him being in. It's about anybody being in the position to do what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And we need to combat that. We need to oppose it. We need to keep opposing it until we get change.
I agree wholeheartedly. Right, so we'll finish it up there. So next Friday, 21st, if you've got all your ducks in order, get your ass there and get rattled into their heads. Before we go, where can folk find you on social media should they wish to follow you? And kind of more importantly, where can they find the Celtic Trust and how maybe even join?
Okay, so they can find in terms of, say, X, I know you're not supposed to tell them to be X now, but frankly, that's still where most football fans are. Yeah. So I think, what am I at? So I halved my two names because I don't think at the time when it started, you couldn't get your full name. So I'm at JeanFind. So I halved my two names. So at JeanFind. That's me on X. And the Celtic Trust is at the Celtic Trust. Brilliant. So that's them. But if you want to join the Celtic Trust, then you can go on to celtictrust.net and go and just join on the site. That's what you do.
Brilliant. You're welcome. Thank you very much for giving me your Friday night to sit and have a wee chat. Always educational. I'm sure next time we'll have more sweary words at the back end.
It'd be good to have a follow-up to what actually happens this year because
that's it.
I think it should be interesting. Yeah,
we'll have a couple of cans for that one.
Definitely.
Right, Jeanette, thank you very much.
So thank you. Thanks for having us on.